people start to realize our differences aren't as big as they seem.
I couldn't really understand the magnitude of what was going on.
I know a lot of people were affected.
You know, it's still that divide.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network and Wish TV, this is Our City, Our Voice.
You look a lot different at it.
Everybody was kind of spinning about what it was and what was happening.
Everything's changed.
Everything's changed. Presented by the National Bank of Indianapolis.
State lawmakers are coming to the end of their current legislative session. And as we celebrate Earth Month, we want to shine a light on how the work is affecting you. We are glad to be joined today by Sam Carpenter, the Executive Director of the Hoosier Environmental Council, joining us now. We really appreciate you making time for us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Jakari. I appreciate it.
So let's go ahead and dive right in. We've seen a lot of bills move through the Statehouse this session. From an environmental perspective, how would you grade what lawmakers are doing?
Well, sure. So from the environmentalist perspective, there's some improvements that could be had. I think, Hoosier Environmental Council is really focused on issues around land conservation, water, and clean energy, clean, affordable energy. So there were some bills that did make some progress in that front. There was a bill, SB 422. It actually has been signed by Governor Braun already, and that bill helps bring clean, affordable energy into our homes, into our communities, through low-cost transmission improvements. So we have this big electric grid that's very complicated. We need to build some new transmission, but this bill actually lets us utilize lower cost forms to get more out of our existing structure. So that was a good bill. Chairman of the Senate Utilities Committee, Senator Eric Cook, introduced that, so we were really pleased about that. On the energy side, some things that we're not as excited about is putting the risk associated with small modular nuclear reactors, which is a new form of technology that's not really proven at this point. A lot of cost concerns on Hoosier ratepayers. So that is a form of energy that doesn't have, climate pollution related to it. But we weren't as excited about that one for some of the reasons that really it's unproven technology that could be very expensive for Hoosier ratepayers. We're concerned about keeping energy rates low. Yep. The best way to do that is those affordable, clean energy. So that's wind, that's solar, and that's managing our energy demand so that we can pull back when those extreme weather days that we're getting more and more of, when it gets really hot or really cold, we can actually collectively pull back some of that demand so that we don't have issues. So there's lots of things to do around energy. Around water,
I want to ask you this next question. We have just a few minutes here, so we have a lot to get to. One of the things, as you're aware right now, that's big in the legislature is the state budget. Do you find that as someone focused on the economy, that conservatives are willing to meet you where you're at? And are there things in the state budget that you see to keep Indiana's environment healthy?
Well, one of the things that we do need to do is invest in our conservation of our natural places, our parks. There's the President Harrison Trust, and we've sought for a regular source of funding for that type of conservation. And actually, natural lands are a great asset. They actually, for recreation, there's more, ever since COVID happened, there's an explosion of our natural parks and places being utilized. And there's actually a good economic driver as well. There is a bill that is HB 1616 that actually recommends a study of that kind of nature-based recreation and what sort of economic impacts it has. So we'd like to see more of that in the state budget and a consistent source of funding. We have our license plates. That's kind of what funds that trust, that conservation trust. But a tax on, outdoor recreation equipment. could be the type of thing that could really fund so we could expand that like has happened in some other states.
Okay, Governor Braun, I want to make sure I get this correct because it was very specific. Governor Braun signed an order. He hoped to recover rare earth minerals from, recover rare earths from coal. That's why I wanted to read it to get it right.
Right.
Rare earths, of course, for our viewers, are critical material for things like cell phones, and the U.S. is largely reliant on China for them. Do you worry this effort will lead to more fossil fuel mining?
Yeah, so I did see that executive order yesterday as well. And so we have more unlined coal ash pits that are in contact with our groundwater than any state in the nation.
Okay.
So coal ash is toxic. It has mercury and arsenic and other toxic items that can impact our groundwater. So if the governor is looking at extracting rare earth minerals that are important from that coal ash, I hope in that process it's going to be moved to dry storage, because what we really need to have happen is that coal ash to not be in contact with the groundwater. So maybe this is an opportunity to transition some of that. EPA has new guidelines that do require that dry storage, and we've got a lot that is not. It's like in the floodplain and along the Ohio and that sort of thing. So we are concerned about that and see that rare earth extraction maybe as an opportunity to do that transition to the dry storage that's really needed for Hoosiers.
Okay, I think we have about 30 or so seconds here. On the federal level, you've seen the Trump administration has laid off a number of federal employees. They did another round yesterday. They've also canceled hundreds of grants, including some right here in Indiana. Can the state do enough to protect the environment without the federal support that it's had previously?
Well, the state needs to do a lot to protect the environment, especially in the case of these rollbacks of these protections, the kind of the gutting of the Environmental Protection Agency that's happened on the federal level, and we are really concerned about that. Now, I know Governor Braun himself has a great interest in the outdoors, but unfortunately some of the executive orders have aligned with the federal executive orders in saying, no more stringent than, like the state cannot have guidelines any more stringent than the federal. So as those federal roll back, Hoosier Environmental Council is very concerned about rolling back state protections as well. I mean, that's our water that we rely on, that's our air that we breathe, and we need to think about these things as protection, not just regulation. It's not, and the other thing that, Hoosier Environmental Council is very focused on is that, you can have a good environment, clean water, clean air, and have a strong economy. We think those things go together, and that whole quality of life piece is very important.
Okay, that is Sam Carpenter, Executive Director of the Hoosier Environmental Council. We have a whole list of questions and only finite time on television news, but we really appreciate you stopping by.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to have the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Discover more at wishtv.com, and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook, check out more podcasts from the All Indiana Podcast Network now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.